Hello, I'm your host Jim McClean. Welcome back to another episode of the BanterFlix movie review show here on NvTv. Let's see what movies we'll be talking about tonight. We'll be reviewing Wicked Part 1, which is out in cinemas now. Our pick of the streams is My Old Ass on Amazon Prime. And we'll wrap up with our DVD of the week, Monster. So that's what we've lined up for you this week. Thanks to Joe McElroy for stepping in for me last week. Joining me in the studio this evening is James Oliver.
Hi.
And Gavin Moriarty.
Hey, Jim.
Hello to you both. We have a packed show, and as always, let's move on and kick things off with a bit of movie news. So that's a look at the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Gavin, I'm looking at you. You're very excited about this. You bounced in the studio and said you could not wait to talk about Lilo and Stitch. Yet again, the House of Mouse is dipping into its back catalogue, its animated back catalogue, with another live-action remake because we need them so much. I'm a fan of Lilo and Stitch. What can I say? I have little Stitch on my phone cover. So I'm kind of excited about this, but at the same time, I cannot justify its existence in any way. Are you excited at all?
No, not remotely. I mean, I do like the original too, but I also, much like kind of The Lion King, which got needlessly remade, animation can do something that live action can't. And the live action ones that I've seen, so Lion King, and I know they're doing another prequel live action thing. They're fine, but I see them as ultimately a pointless exercise in, just capitalism. Really, just let's make some money. Let's just rehash the hits. It's very. I don't see the merit to them, if I'm being honest. Animation, and particularly whenever you talk about something like Lilo and Stitch and The Lion King, they're so vibrant and colourful. It doesn't translate to live action, not for me anyway.
It's got my money because I like Little Stitch. What can I say? But I still don't see the point. I guess that's because we don't have our producers' heads on, and they make money. They seem to make money for Disney. So maybe ultimately a way of looking at it is they might fund other projects, but it just seems to be that probably they'll just fund MCU stuff. James, I don't know about you. As we say, Gavin was very excited about this. I don't know about you. Have you seen the original Lilo and Stitch? And just your general thoughts of the House of Mouse's continued fascination with going back through its animated back catalogue, its animated classics.
No, I've not seen the original. No one's asking for these remakes. Nobody wants them. The only live action titles I'm actually quite excited for is that now that Disney has lost its sort of rights on a few titular characters, is the horror versions. So the likes of Winnie the Pooh, Steamboat Willie himself. I enjoy them, and I like seeing what ridiculous new horror twists they can put on the classics. Yeah, so in terms of those, I like them, but these rehashes, no, just nobody wants them, nobody needs them.
James, you might be in the minority about that. The Poohverse, I believe, is what those kind of slasher movies are called. Sometimes the clue's in the title, but we'll say no more about that. I know there's loads of news kicking about this week. Something that caught my attention just before we came in is that apparently, now it's still in the early stages, there is talk of a sequel to Slumdog Millionaire. Now I know we're already getting a Broadway adaptation, a musical adaptation of the movie, starring Dev Patel, of course. I don't necessarily think there needs to be a sequel, but as we've just said, I'm not a movie producer. I am not someone who's in the studio. If there's money to be made, a cynical producer somewhere will try and get every ounce out of an IP they've paid money for. Gavin, do you think there's potential for a sequel?
No, unless it's about, money and love don't make you happy. If they go down that route, I'd be very curious. No, I think it's this sort of kind of regression to like the good old days. That seems to be, the sort of theme, even culturally and politically at the minute. I'm not sure you would call them good old days though. So it's not. It's probably something we're going to see an awful lot of going forward. I personally, it depresses me that nothing original is really coming out. I mean, Slumdog Millionaire, really good movie. Not sure it was Oscar worthy, but it was fun, and it got bums on seats. But it was at least an original idea. To go back to that and to make a sequel to it, it makes me sad.
Well, I guess you've possibly answered your own question that I asked you in the fact that it got bums on seats. It's an Oscar-winning title. I hate to think of a film as an IP or product. Cinema is art. That's the way old kind of fogies like me will always think. But I guess, hey, we've already got a new, I think, possibly 2-3 films in the 28 Days Later franchise. Danny Boyle's back for that. Cillian Murphy, I think, is back. I know he's producing. So if Danny Boyle was back for this, maybe, I don't know. Dev Patel, I thought he did a great job with Monkey Man, one of my favourite films of the year so far. So I don't know. This is early stages. James, this is where I throw in the fact, have you seen Slumdog Millionaire?
No, but I had no interest in it at the time, and yeah, I mean, a sequel to that, are you going to tell us the story of how he went back to living in the slums? Is that, I don't know, because if you're going to, that's kind of harsh.
Well, I don't know, but I think for your homework, we've definitely got to get you to watch Slumdog Millionaire. On that note, let's move on and let's have a look at some of the movies that are out in cinemas this week.
Where are we going?
Before Maui stole Tifiti's heart, our ancestors wanted to connect our island to all the people of the entire ocean. It's my job as a wayfinder to finish what they started.
Wanna show our people just how far we'll go.
The supervision of this election is a duty I never thought I'd have to perform. They are sequestered, and they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand?
No sane man would want the papacy. The men who are dangerous are the ones who do want it.
So that's a look at Moana 2 and Conclave, two very different films that are out this week. I don't know, Gavin, we knew you were excited about Lilo and Stitch. So maybe between the two films we're going to I'm not going to ask you what you think of the films because we obviously haven't seen them yet, but of the two, what are you most excited about this week?
Well, I have seen Moana, the original, and at least they're not doing Moana 2 live action. So no, Moana I would probably give my endorsement because it's a good movie. The first one anyway. I mean, sequels are, can be diminishing returns, but if it goes the Toy Story road, then, that's not too bad. But yeah, I would give my vote to Moana 2 over Conclave.
Okay, well, I know that Alan Maben, who's on this show, has already said, I think it was on social media, that Conclave is his film of the year so far. Ralph Fiennes, always intrigued by that. Stanley Tucci, John Lithgow. It's a sexy cast. Who doesn't want to know about the process of electing a new pope? I am looking forward to seeing it. I have to admit, I only watched Moana for the first time last week. I thought it was a lot of fun. Just before we move on, because I know James is itching to throw in his 2 cents on this, Gavin, you will be relieved to know that they are remaking a live-action version of Moana. But don't worry, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be there. James, before we get stuck into this week's review, we're talking about films we haven't seen yet. We'll obviously be talking about one of them next week. Moana 2 or Conclave, what gets your vote for a seat at the cinema this week?
It'll have to be Conclave, given it's from the director of All Quiet on the Western Front. But that was a phenomenal film, so I'm very intrigued on a different take altogether, on a very sort of almost like a political drama, I suppose you could say. Moana 2, haven't seen the first one, And given that The Rock's going to be in the live action one and probably bankrupt the whole film, well.
Well, James, I'm noticing a big thing this week about movies you haven't seen. So I think we will swiftly move on and chat about a movie we've all watched.
The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
This wicked witch.
Don't be afraid.
It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
No wizard that there is or was is ever gonna bring
So that's a look at Wicked. Importantly, we should say Wicked Part 1. I think that's been absent in some of the advertising for this film. So this is the ultra big budget adaptation of the Broadway smash. That is both a prequel and retelling of the classic Wizard of Oz story. James, I'll come to you first. Are you familiar with the stage play? Because I know we've talked about a lot of movies that you haven't seen. Are you familiar with the stage play? And then, regardless of whether you've seen it or not, what do you think of the movie?
So it's 4 for 4. I have not seen the stage play. I am not familiar with it, nor the novel that it's also based on. So first of all, disclaimer, I hated everything about this. I hated its announcement. I thought it was just going to be a cash grab. Ariana's casting, I also hated. And the trailer just did nothing for me. And it wasn't until you said we'd be talking about it. So I took myself to see it Friday morning. And I loved it. I couldn't help but tap along to the songs. I thought they were catchy. I thought the story was just really well done. And I think it actually benefited that I knew nothing prior going in. I didn't know what songs had been added in or taken out from the stage play. Wasn't overly familiar with the story. And yeah, I thought it ended on a great sort of cliffhanger and how it all came about. Even my fiance knew Defying Gravity, even though she had never seen the stage play either. So I wasn't even aware of that, but I absolutely loved this and it could go into my top 10 this year.
So I am familiar with the stage play. I know we'll come to you in a second, Gavin. I don't think you have seen the stage play either. I've seen it twice, actually, I have to admit. So Wicked Part 1, we'll get Part 2 next year. So basically what they're doing is the Act 1 and Act 2 from the stage play. For me, I really enjoyed this. I think Cynthia Erivo is brilliant in the leading role. And Ariana Grande, she's doing it true to the character that we got to see on stage. I think it's fab. My problem is, this is for me Stephen King's It Part 1 and Part 2 all over again. In that sense, they've cherry-picked, for me anyway, the strongest element of the stage play and created a song, all the big numbers, like Defying Gravity, as we mentioned, made famous by Idina Menzel, set the benchmark for Frozen, I guess Moana as well. That's probably the strongest element of the film. The second half, without going into too much into spoilers, where elements of The Wizard of Oz come into play within the background, it's not the bit I remember. So I'm wondering, when we get Part 1 and Part 2, ultimately, would this have been better as maybe a 3-hour feature, the whole thing, as opposed to an Act 1 and or Part 1, I should say, and Part 2. But for what it's worth, I think they give it the best. I enjoyed it. I think ultimately, when we see the 2, I think Part 2 is going to be baggy. But, Gavin, as we said, you haven't seen the stage play, as we've mentioned. No. I don't know, are you familiar with Defying Gravity?
No.
Okay, so like James, maybe it's just me, underneath my, gruff, masculine exterior lies someone who secretly, well not so secretly, loves a good old Broadway, good old musical. But what about you? What do you think of this?
I hate musicals, normally. If someone were to talk to me about musicals, I might like, I like The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. And then they give me a look like I've just broke wind. So going into this, and I know nothing about the Broadway musical, I was going in expecting to hate it, much like yourself, and and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I mean, it was nice that there's a setup where, you know, the start of it kind of there's a little bit of Dorothy, off to the side, and so it sort of sets you in that world quite nicely. But really, I'm very critical of movies that rely on CGI too much. There was a wee tiny bit at the start where I think we've moved away from the Chris Nolan, Peter Jackson thing of really setting up like scope. I don't think those films know really, and particularly Marvel movies don't really know how to do that. But the film's at its strongest with those musical numbers, and Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo are excellent. They are absolutely brilliant. Their vocal ranges are insane. I was tapping my foot for most of its nearly 3-hour runtime, which again, don't really see that. You know, I didn't feel it. I think what's interesting about you were saying is that, you know, with regards to the stage adaptation, a lot of people maybe who are going to see the movie haven't seen it, so they might not come at it with your opinion of, well, you know, maybe that part 2 might be a bit baggy. I think I can't wait for part 2, which is such a weird thing to say whenever I was going into it, like, I am going to hate this, but no, I thought it was great.
Yeah, well, as I said, I'm delighted that you both enjoyed this, and I guess coming back to you, James, you've already going to practically have your ticket booked. You're going to be busting to go see part 2 as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have to say I'm very much looking forward to it now. I really just hope it's not a case of The Last Jedi, which, you know, we'll not really speak too much on, where it's, you know, you're really excited for questions to be answered and it doesn't really answer them. But I'm fairly confident that, you know, we'll get sort of to the point of where the first film and how it opens, and we'll get to that stage and how it all happens and how it all wraps up. But yeah, as Gavin said, the musical number is fantastic. Both Ariana and Cynthia's vocal range is just mesmerizing at times. And for someone, again, like Gavin, who absolutely was not looking forward to it one bit, I can hold my hands up and say, I was wrong.
There we go. Not often everyone apologises. I know there's certain president-elects that will definitely not apologise, but we'll leave that to the realm of Slugger O'Toole. The last thing I want to say, because there's loads of things. I think John M. Chu, fab job, does the directing. You've mentioned this, Gav, the fact so much they've tried to do practical. The costumes look fab, the sets look fab. But just before we go, can we just pause for a minute? We've praised Cynthia, we've praised Ariana Grande. Can we just say, for the perfect piece of casting in this film, as the aforementioned wizard from The Wizard of Oz, as Jeff Goldblum? I just think it's masterstroke. Gav, I mean, there we go, come on.
Spoiler? I think you should,
he's in the trailer. He's in the trailer, Gavin, so it's not a spoiler.
I haven't seen the trailer, that's matter. But no, that's the other thing too. Having not gone in, I haven't seen the trailer either, so that was a really nice surprise. But it's kind of perfect casting. It is kind of, he kind of has that wonderful sort of sleazy charm that is perfect for The Wizard of Oz. But yeah, no, a lovely wee bit of casting there, definitely.
So yeah, perfect bit of casting. There's also some cameos from some of the Broadway stars as well to look out for. So 3 thumbs up from all of us here, all the lads, as we all go and watch Wicked. So with that, let's move from the big screen and let's talk about something you can watch at home.
May you experience a new level of consciousness tonight.
Oh my God, are you guys tripping? I don't feel anything.
That's because we don't tolerate drugs well.
Hey, freak. Who are you?
Elliot.
Dude, I'm you.
You're me.
What's up?
I don't have a gap in my teeth.
Yeah, wear your retainer. Left boob, 1 cup smaller than the right.
I'm actually kind of hot for being middle-aged.
I'm 39 years old. That's not middle-aged.
No, that is middle-aged.
No, it's not. I am a very young adult.
I'm so jealous you guys had good trips.
Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Dude, I know mom can be annoying, but be nice to her. And go hang out with your brothers.
Ow, Max!
Also, can you avoid anyone named Chad?
Good morning, Elliot. Have you met Chad?
Elliot, you freak. I put my number in your phone the other night, but I did not know this would work. Wait a minute, hang on. Basement! Dude, I gotta go.
So that's a look at My Old Ass. No, not My Old Ass, the movie. It's available on Amazon Prime, starring Aubrey Plaza, and somehow, or does she, summon her older self in this coming-of-age drama. As we say, I'm sure you can probably seek it out in DVD and Blu-ray, but at the minute you can find this on Amazon Prime. Gavin, what do you think of this?
I liked it. I suppose maybe to continue with the musical theme, the movie, it's kind of got a good hook. So the chorus is not bad, but the melody isn't quite there. It sort of feels like, you know, the concept of your younger self talking to your older self, and the older self obviously having lived, you know, a long and interesting life, but coming back to tell her, don't do X, don't do Y. Really interesting concept. It just kind of feels like it's like maybe the second draft and it needed a couple more drafts just to kind of really nail it down. It's not like the performances are perfectly good. It's nicely shot, but I don't know that it hits a home run with the concept. It's a really good idea, but I don't think you'll maybe want to watch it again or, you know, remember it too much.
Sticking with the musical theme, maybe it's just not quite your tempo. Not quite your tempo. I think we'll go with that one. I like this. A bit like you didn't love it. I'm a huge fan of Aubrey Plaza. I love it when she is cast by producers and directors as more than just the token party girl. Like when she gets cast and stuff like Dirty Grandpa, my heart sighs a little bit. But when she's given a role like in Ingrid Goes West, which is, you know, the king comedy for the social media area, it's like, yes, my chest just sticks out and I go, yes, you are a fab actor. Here, she is given something of substance in that sense. Here we have a drug-fueled coming-of-age drama with a twist, and LGBTQ plus elements within there as well. Someone to be able to give back advice to the younger self of things, not to protect them, but to protect them from hurt. That's as much, I guess, as we can say without going into spoilers. I think there was about an hour mark where I went, I'm not going to like this, I'm disappointed. And then there's a plot point and a change, and suddenly I sat there and maybe got a little bit dusty-eyed at home. I like this, didn't love it. James, what about you?
Yeah, I thought it was quite heartwarming, but towards the end, for me anyway, there's a really gaping plot hole that I didn't get, or maybe I missed something, but I don't think I did. Like yourself, Ingrid Goes West, phenomenal film. I love that film because it starts as one thing and quickly turns into another. Aubrey Plaza, adore that woman as an actor as well. She's not in this enough for me. You know, I feel the trailer is marketed as in she would be in it more. Love the concept of it. It's a perfectly, you know, good Friday night film to stick on at home. But yeah, like yourselves, I feel there could have been just that bit more, and the plot hole is what kind of ruined it for me.
Well, James, as we've said before many times in the podcast and the TV show, marketing men and women will lie and sell their souls to get you to watch their product, buy a ticket to see something in the cinema. So I guess I get why they would want to put Aubrey Plaza front and center in the marketing, in the trailer. Yes, she is used, albeit briefly, in the film, sparingly, I guess is a better way to put it, but it does make sense. And like you mentioned, I think it wears its heart unashamedly on its sleeve, and I will always back films like that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a gentle hug on a Friday evening. So yeah, I liked it. So maybe not as glorious of an endorsement this time round as opposed to Wicked Part 1, but I think we all pretty much enjoyed this. So on that note, let's move on as we continue this series to champion the good old days of physical media.
So where are you headed?
We have to put the cigarette out when we have it.
You don't know me! Where is the thing so horrible you can't even imagine it? It's usually a lot easier than you think.
Shelby, that girl I'm used to didn't I?
No!
I know what I'm doing, and you're never gonna understand it, all right? So you gotta trust me.
You never really know until you're the one standing there.
You think nobody'd ever talked dirty to you before?
I just like to settle first, you know?
Really? Who killed that man?
What do you think?
You can't kill people.
People kill each other every day. I think that all these people just didn't know yet who I was gonna be. But one day, they'd all see.
So that's a look at Patty Jenkins' Monster, written and directed by the filmmaker, a serial killer, true life serial killer drama told from a female point of view, from a female directed and written, as I've mentioned, by a female director with an Oscar-winning performance from Charlize Theron. And if I'm right, I think the late, great Roger Ebert said he will never see a better performance in his life, or up there in one of his all-time favourite performances by an actor on screen. James, you said before we started to record, shock horror, we're going to make it 5 for a few. You hadn't seen this before we asked you to watch it this week. So what do you think?
Yeah, I loved it. Charlize Theron is just incredible, so unrecognisable, and funnily enough, when I seen this advertised, because I watched it as well on Amazon Prime, below was an actual documentary based on the serial killer who it's about, and it's almost uncanny how well they got the prosthetics done for this. Amazing. Christina Ricci as well is in this, and again, a great performance. And you can't help but feel, I know she's a serial killer, but you can't help but feel a little bit of empathy for her, given how she's been treated up until the point where we meet her in her life. But yeah, great performances. And again, Patty Jenkins, it's weird that she went from this to, you know, later on directing Wonder Woman. You know, I mean, the first Wonder Woman I love, sequel, not so much. But yeah, this was just stellar cast, phenomenal directing and acting. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I will back both of the Wonder Woman movies. The second one is a flawed film, very flawed film. But again, you know, it is things that it's trying to do, and I guess an important movie and important ideas at the time of its place. Here, as we say, normally, I know we have Joe and Therese, BanterFlix's sleuth sisters, who love all things serial killer related, and that is not for me because I find it depressing. But whether it's the fact this is from a female point of view, from a female filmmaker, maybe that's what draws me in. I love the kind of sense that the title of the movie, it's a double bluff, because yes, there's no doubt undeniably that Aileen does horrible things in this film, but you are maybe not asked to sympathise with her, but you're asked to understand, possibly empathise with this sex worker who turned serial killer. Elements, as we mentioned with the previous film, LGBTQ+ in there as well. Christina Ricci, I think, just lovely kind of performances between them. A pretty solid film that even for someone like me who does not like serial killer dramas, and I know there's a glut of them on all various streaming channels, they're not for me. There's something about this, probably more than likely a fantastic central performance, as I've already mentioned, by Charlize Theron. And yeah, so Gavin, what about you? Because I know you said you have seen this before, and I know you haven't done your homework quite. You haven't got a chance to rewatch it, but you have seen it.
I mean, I did see it whenever it came out, and I think I think you've kind of both touched on it. I mean, it's really, I don't really see. I mean, it's not a serial killer movie. But it's more about how she's come to be like that, and I think prosthetics can really only do so much. It's in her eyes. It's just, you can tell, you know. And I kind of, you know, haven't seen her in, you know, Arrested Development, which kind of makes a joke about that. But clearly, you know, she's not too precious about her work. But you can see that she really put everything into that movie, and performance-wise. So that's what sort of sticks out the most about it, was that there's just that human element to it. I mean, yeah, she does awful things in it, but you know where she's coming from, and it was, and I don't know that you know, in the hands of a male director, would you have gotten that perspective? Probably not. But it's hard to say. But I mean, I think it's a phenomenal performance, no doubt.
Yeah, Gavin, without a doubt. And as we say, an Oscar-winning performance by Charlize Theron. Well worth a watch. And as we say, it's been re-released with this lovely new 4K. It's available now on DVD and Blu-ray. So all that's left for me to do now is thank my two guests here in the studio. So thank you very much, James.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks very much, Gavin.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks very much for watching at home. We'll be back next week with another episode. And more importantly, the event of the year, the BanterFlix Christmas lights, will be officially switched on. Who knows what celebrity will get to do the honour? You'll just have to wait and see. But for now, until then, goodbye.